I don't know what got me thinking about Tamerlane or Timur. And I started wondering how many he killed, and they said like it was some place that said 70 million. Then I started looking more and more and more. The more I looked, it ended up the only thing they could any leader, like military leader, was Mao Zedong. Was like, what was it, 50 million, 60 million people. Well, I think that was mostly, I don't know if that was killed or through starvation. That was from communism. When they went to communism, they killed them through stupidity. Anyway, so I started looking there, and then that led me to another page of serial. What was I looking? I know I was looking through military leaders that killed the most, and that's what I ended up was Mao Zedong, or however you pronounce it. They was saying that Timur killed 70 million, so that's speculation. That was in like 1100s or whatever. But the how many has religion killed? All the religious wars and all religions besides paganism was started by, I think, unless you go up to China, was started by Jewish. First they started the Jewish religion, and then I think they just started thinking that not everybody was gonna follow it, so there was break-offs, and they just, I don't know if they allowed it or whatever. Anyway, so you could kind of say that they're ranked up there with the high. But what was I was gonna say something like how how that, but also how what was it, serial killers? Oh dang, I'm gonna have to start this over. Remember what I was gonna say? Yeah, I was saying that, but it was also, Mexico, and all the people in like South America and Mexico that they're like, as far as in serial killers, like Brazil and down there, they got like the, not necessarily all Brazil, but like South America area, they got like the highest count of serial killers. Got to be related to the cocaine uh, cartel or whatever. But and they're talking about. I was thinking, what gets people, what what makes people uh, not interested in them, but it's like it's something that in our ancient history. And that's what I was gonna say. I was wondering if all these people that kill just for, and we're not attracted to it, but we'll listen to it. You'll go to a movie or you'll listen to it on the news, and unless a lot of people listen to it, and then when they start describing it, then they say, I don't want to listen to all that bloody stuff. They'll listen to the numbers, and I think what happened is back in history when humans were first starting to realize, or they started living together, the realization of living in groups, somewhere along the line, it must have been when they either started breeding or when they started eating meat. And I'm pretty sure they was probably breeding before they was eating. I don't know. It's right. That's like neck and neck. Were they breeding, humans breeding first? Like humans or even Neanderthals, any of that. And I'm not sure if Neanderthal, but they show people that were had holes in their head and stuff. That could have been. They're saying, oh, this it was a sharp edge. It was like a stone or something that broke their skull open. But I mean, there's, if there was around avalanches, safety wasn't going to be that big a thing. They might have been there might have been idiots among them. Not saying they weren't all idiots. Not saying they were, but if they were avalanches and stuff like that. But I'm get into the humans or even Neolithic or prior to Neolithics, not the Desvedians or whatever those were called, but between at some point along the time, I'm pretty sure the people that weren't pulling their load or help, they got people that are buried, but were those people contributing to the tribe or group or whatever they were how big however big they got. I'm wondering if they killed off people that wouldn't pull their load, and then at some point in time they stopped killing people. Maybe that's when they started a religion, or there's something. Maybe somebody somewhere along the line, maybe some realization came along, and somebody said, we shouldn't be killing each other just because. And that's when laziness. What caused those people not to work? Maybe they were born with impaired or something like that, born mentally, not up to snuff to where they couldn't. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe they were like dyslexic and couldn't understand the language that everybody was speaking there. Or maybe they were, their brain was whatever. Maybe they weren't capable, physically or mentally capable of work to keep up, so they were automatically killed. Now that carried into apparently with the comic strip or cartoon, or I don't know if it's true or not. If uh, who was not the movie of the 300 the Spartans, where they said that if their babies weren't perfect, that they'd throw them off a cliff. Now whether that was true or whether that was in history, because I don't think uh, what either they got that off of rumors, because what you read about Sparta is they only got like a shield with a couple of things, like a shield. I think maybe a steel, a stone steel, or what is that? What they call them, a steel, where they're stone with encryptions and stuff like that. And there was a shield with drawings on it, and they didn't find too much. I don't think there's too much historical data on Sparta. All these people come up with all this stuff, but I think most of the history came from like a shield and what they painted on the shield, and maybe a steel that they had found later or something like that. Maybe it was a Greek steel or something like that that gave some history of the Spartans. But anyway, did they throw their babies off if they weren't perfect? I mean, is that something that it just carried into that far into that future, from hundreds of thousands of years, they were just killing off people that weren't able to keep up. So somewhere along the line, and they had a strict religion. I'm pretty sure they had a religion, because they had the, I don't know what they had for religion. They, who knows what they got on Sparta as far as the history, because of I haven't, they didn't have books or anything. They haven't found any books. They just found a steel and I think a shield or something like that. And maybe I don't know if they've ever uncovered anything else. But I mean, how, and that's engraved in our in the human psyche, and that's got to be where, like serial killers are still have it, and it's like, well, you know what, these people just aren't. And it's got to, you're saying it's mentally defunct, but this used to be what leaders of groups used to do, is get rid of people that weren't functioning or were non unable to function. Now they don't go to the point where, some of these I'm not saying that they're leaders. I'm not saying that they're up to snuff with what we are supposed to be thinking nowadays. But people are killing animals, and that's still a killing them and riding, they torturing them, and they whatever, they think less of them. So there's a timeline in there where we were one with the animals, and we had to have moved with herds, and then somewhere along the line the breeding started. Instead of, because they're saying we were born monkeys and the monkeys evolved. Well, I'm saying we were born of animals, and through time the thought of animals made the different groups. Like they made the what is the first the hominids, is that what they're called? And that was their first realization thought, all the animals. And then they made them, and they were formed in the womb of animals, and they were probably born in large sections, and then they started breeding on their own. And then the next thought, until humans realized on their own and started they're able to, basically they stole the thought of animals, because if animals were making us at first, they made up to this, and then they made probably Neanderthals. I don't think we evolved like science says. I think the animals made us. The realization happened, and we were born, and whatever was born, and then the next group, like Neanderthals, were born, and then the next group, the Denisovians, or whatever those are called, and then from there, between the Neanderthals and the Denisovians, their crossbreeding uh, possibly made humans, because one seeing another, if they were crossbreeding, then they were seeing something in the others that they liked. Maybe one liked the strength of the others or whatever. Wouldn't have been that much difference. But I mean, look at nowadays. Beauty and strength, usually a beautiful woman looks for strength. I mean, not now, but now they look for, well, they still look for anyway. But that might have been what caused the Neanderthals and the Denisovians to crossbreed. Is the Denisovians would be a more, I don't know what they look like. They still had the face or whatever, and then that caused the realization possibly happened there, and then from there, uh, humans were formed, and they were probably pushed out of a group. If they were, all of a sudden, they would just everybody having babies that were better than the Denisovians would have been, whatever, I don't know, next after the Denisovians or whatever they're called. But at some point, I mean, even in human history, we've had to have killed off people that weren't pulling their load. And then somewhere we just stopped it and said, no, we can't do this anymore. But the thought, that wouldn't stop that train of thought. I mean, there had to have been something, because even horses will kill their own if they're not going to. They got some video. There's some movie or documentary about this one horse that killed its baby, or is gonna kill its baby, and they chomp them on the neck, and I don't know if they shake them or they just bite them real hard on the neck, and that kills them if they're not going to do anything. And that's carried into, and then all of a sudden religion and government just put a wall, said no more of this, and they thought, they think that's going to, they always think that because they have a law, it's going to stop it. Well, all this train of thought, whatever happened, say rape. Probably wasn't rape. It was two people meeting, and one overpowered. And back then it would have just been, that's how it was. Maybe they didn't go out in groups, and if you did, then you were looking to be, whatever, bred by a Neanderthal, or maybe they weren't even crossbreeding. Maybe they were maybe Neanderthals were raping the Denisovians or whatever they called them. Or vice versa. But anyway, that these laws and these religions, these supposedly morals and ethics. That's the timeline wall. You know, it might be variants of religion and then morals and stuff like that. That, but there's still a wall, a time wall, where they're saying stop doing it. We got to stop doing this. And but that 100,000 years or a million years of doing it through all these different things that were made, it's just going to plow through, and it might not hit the whole group, but there's going to be people somewhere along the line. Those people are connected or are not connected, but they have a funnel. Maybe they're connected to the past somehow, and they don't know it. Maybe they're not thinking, and they get this train of thought. And even though there's all these moral codes and these religions and this government laws, they can't stop it from hitting. And I was thinking, like, even rapists and stuff. Maybe they don't want to rape. Maybe they just getting hit so hard with this stuff, and they don't know why. And none of these psychologists or psychiatrists are going to say, oh, they try to blame this individual person. They don't try to blame humanity. They used to blame society for back in the late 60s, early 70s. They tried to blame humanity for murders and stuff like that. And then they got out of that, and then they started blaming, now they're at mental health. Well, through time, this has happened. And these people, there's something that's coming from the past. And I'm thinking it's hitting these rapists. It's hitting these murderers. Now, criminals, I don't know. Criminals are just people that don't, that's basically government. As far as I'm concerned, thieves and stuff like that, thieves, criminals, well, they're all criminals, but usually when you say criminals, I don't know if you put in rapists and murderers and child molesters. And where child molestation comes from, I don't know where child molestation comes from. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it used to be when they were Neanderthals or something. It was funny to rape. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. But anyway, I'm thinking all this stuff is, it's from the past. It's a thought that's just, you're not going to stop it. These laws and morals and ethics aren't going to stop this from hitting somebody. They're going to hit, narrow down, and it might stop a bunch of them, but there's still, like they say, a holy, and it'll hit a hole, and that hole will be this person that's going to rape or murder or whatever it is, And it's just anger, all this stuff's going to hit, and it's going to dwindle. It's like trying to plug the holes in a dam, and it's hitting, all this pressure is hitting against this dam. Well, this dam, the religion is weak because all these laws and stuff are weak because they don't really have any. They're just government or people wanting to control, and people say, oh, this is bullcrap. These religions and these laws are bullcrap. And they are, because they're just putting up stuff so they can get control and people will vote them in. And that's how it's always been, just so people will say, oh yeah, I'm a civilized, and somewhere along the line they try to become civilized. So they're putting these bull stuff, this bullshit walls of laws and government and morality. And they're saying it's this, that, and the other, and that they need to be it. But they're not saying that the 100,000 or a million years of this stuff happened, and it just blows through this morality and this wall, this timeline wall that they just said, we got to stop this. And it's going to blow through that, and it's going to continue to blow through that until you tell the truth of the past and quit trying to hide it with scientific bullshit, like saying you find an axe or something and then try to make up a story of it, and it ain't even the real story. And say, well, these people, there's so many things that it might have just been this area or this era, or it might have been traded. It might not even be these people that had it. They say, well, this wood came from wherever. You don't know that there wasn't a clump of trees in the area, and they noticed this clump of trees, and they made an axe handle out of this clump of trees. And then the clump of trees, they just burned up the clump of trees, but one person uh, for an unknown reason, made an axe handle, and they find it and they said, oh, they must have traded with somebody because this tree is only found in so wherever. You got those downdrafts that blow trees over all the time. That'd wipe out a small stand of trees that weren't normal to an area. Anyway, I just thought I'd just for all these mental health and all this stuff that they try to put. I think all this stuff is blown from the past to these people. I don't think this is these their mental health. I think it's just maybe I don't know what they're thinking or what there's just people that you can't control the mind of people, and if you do, you're a communist. You can't control freedom of thought, but you should make it known. I mean, this is the only way I know how to make it known, by saying it, that this stuff's going to come around, and if you disagree with your thought or you think it's wrong or there's a law against it and your thought can't control you, I say, hey, I don't know if you can say, hey, but that's the whole thing, is you're going to get a finger pointed at you and say, oh, that's your problem. Because, see, everybody knows it's going to, maybe it's all those people saying, oh, I know if we pointed at you, you're going to get stuck with that because I don't want to think like that. And these people are just hammered with the thought, maybe. I'm not saying they are, but from the sound of it, people are, some people say, oh, I don't want to kill, or, I didn't mean to kill, but it's coming on, I'm going to have to kill. And they know it because this flood of thought hits them. And they can't stop it. They probably can. Maybe it's just they were born free thinkers or something, and too free. And, instead of having a religion or something like that in their life, or not necessarily religion, because that's another thing. It's, because religion kills. And all these things, government kills all the time. Wars, they do that without even thinking. For their own, it's for arbitrary reasons. And you can see that it's arbitrary since the 60s, since Nam, Korea. I mean, we got into, and they could say, I think they could have stopped a lot of these wars, even the attack on. I think they let the attack. Anyway, I've already got videos on that, the attack on the Twin Towers and stuff like that, and all these wars were set because they used to back in the 50s. They were supportive of communism in Vietnam. There's a book out on it. I don't know if it was a Vietnam conflict. I had it. I let somebody read it, and I've let them read a Korean War book, and it was interesting, and I can't find it again. And they lost that, and they've never given it back, so I don't lend out anything anymore. But anyway, I'm just saying, all these people saying, oh, it's your problem, it's your mental health, and, these people are trying to talk, and they're saying, and nobody wants to think it. I don't want to think it. But maybe you should say, hey man, that's thought getting blown into your head. You're gonna have to get a hobby. Get a hobby besides that's gonna take your mind off of that. But it might be that their thought, maybe everybody's born on a certain hertz, a certain megahertz or a metahertz or whatever, that they're all connected to and that's the reason they're connected to an agenda, because they're all thinking of the same frequency. And and people say, well, change your frequency. Well, you're born like that. Maybe it's the shape of your head. Maybe it's the way the blood flows through your head, and it creates a magnetic flow around your head that attracts a certain signal, or whatever. Anyway,